मैं प्रत्यक्ष अथवा परोक्ष रूप में संसूचित या प्रकट राष्ट्र का पूर्वक और शुद्ध अंतःकरण से निर्वहन करना।
An end of a national one-party dominance, a surge of regional aspirations and ambitions, a turn in Indian electoral politics with strong, charismatic leaders no longer holding sway. The period from 1989 till perhaps almost present day is the era of coalition governments. This is the turn of the deal makers and the negotiators. While some turned out to be just footnotes in Indian politics, others left their indelible imprint.
After 1947, Congress was the biggest party, largest party. And it was one party dominant multi-party system in our country. So it was a Congress-led multi-party system, but all the other political parties were weak. So the largest democracy, Indian largest democracy, it was determined by Congress. But after some time, especially after the death of Nehru in 1964, there was a phase, we call it end of innocence in Congress. And gradually, the other regional parties developed. And why developed? Because the erosion of Congress started.
The year was 1989. The 9th general elections were held in India in the month of November for 545 constituencies. Voters, disillusioned with the promises of Mr. Clean Rajiv Gandhi, gave him a thumbs down.
Rajiv Gandhi had many redeeming features, and he certainly had a younger vision for India. But I think he was also inexperienced. He had to choose his advisors more carefully, and a series of controversies erupted, most famously, for whatever it's worth, the Bofors scam. And I think VP Singh capitalized on it. And by the end of Rajiv Gandhi's tenure, I think the forces that were building up in opposition to Rajiv Gandhi sort of got together and formed a government.
The Janata Dal, an umbrella of the Lok Dal, Jan Morcha and a few others, with Vishwanath Pratap Singh as the president, challenged Rajiv Gandhi and secured 143 seats, cobbling support from the left as well as the Bharatiya Janata Party.
मैं प्रत्यक्ष अथवा परोक्ष रूप में संसूचित या प्रकट नहीं करूंगा। Congratulations.
Vishwanath Pratap Singh became India's Prime Minister, leading the National Front government.
VP Singh knew that he is a centrist force. He cannot form the government without the support of the regional parties, and that's why he went to Calcutta to get support of the leftists. He attended one SFI rally in Calcutta at Netaji Indoor Stadium, and he took support of Bajpayee Advani also simultaneously. So that was the government, one side left, one side right. It's a very interesting phenomenon. BJP and left, they supported VP Singh government from outside, and VP Singh ruled the country for some time.
It was indeed ironic that for a leader who was close to the Gandhis, he would one day become their biggest political opponent. A loyal minister in the Indira Gandhi cabinet, he also had Sanjay Gandhi's ear. The Janata Dal was formed with the sole aim of being an anti-Congress alternative.
He was a clever politician, a very clever politician. But I don't think he had any great moral stature. He was a good finance minister, but again he wanted to upstage Rajiv Gandhi. And then, he put various industrialists into prison, etc. And he challenged Rajiv Gandhi in many ways. But he didn't have enough time. But I think he's one of those people he's a footnote in the history of Indian democracy.
Singh's most significant step during his limited tenure was the implementation of the Mandal Commission report. The Mandal Commission was set up in 1979 by Morarji Desai to identify the socially backward classes deserving of reservations. Chaired by B.P. Mandal, the Mandal report was given life by V.P. Singh on the 7th of August 1990.
That was his commitment in his manifesto. So, while it may have come as a shock to people, because people normally believe that manifestos are not to be followed. But as far as V.P. Singh was concerned, I must give him due credit that he had decided on this much before and he had put that on top of his agenda. So the way it was handled was wrong, but what he had done was part of his program.
So earlier we had the upper caste and we had the lower castes and we had some others, but we never had these intermediate castes. The middle of Indian democracy or the Indian population was casteless before Mandal came. And what Mandal did was that these other backward castes, many of them were quite well off and quite affluent. That is why you had the discussion about the creamy layer, that the top of the Mandal Commission, the top 8 or 10 castes who were given these concessions in government jobs, etc., were extremely well off castes. Then the
commitment, and even where required by individual constituency sacrifice. If that is the basis, coalitions will run. If they are an immediate and opportunist collection of disparate parties, not bound by a program of action or a common minimum program to which they must pledge allegiance publicly, then it's bound to be a transient occurrence, because any party can pull out when their political short-term purpose is served.
The National Front government, led by V.P. Singh, lasted all of 11 months. For the second time in independent India's history, a non-Congress government was felled at the centre.
He was a well-meaning man. He had good ideas, but somehow I thought he was an incomplete man, because he had good ideas which he couldn't really implement. And he made too many mistakes politically to be successful. And it was not even clear that he wanted to be successful.
With the fall of the V.P. Singh-led National Front, the stage was set for Chandra Shekhar, a man who helped topple his predecessor's government. With the Congress led by Rajiv Gandhi pledging support on the 10th of November 1990, he presided over the smallest minority government that India would ever have. His party, known as the Samajwadi Janata Party, had an odd 60 seats in the Lok Sabha.
I think it was unsustainable experiment when one party has such few MPs and you are almost entirely on the mercy, as he was, on a much larger party as the Congress was. The Congress, of course, has not once but several times pulled the rug from coalition governments which it has agreed to support. Other parties have also done that. But I believe Chandra Shekhar's government was in the true sense a stopgap, transient and essentially unsustainable government. This is no commentary on Chandra Shekhar's credentials to be PM or on his own talents. But the entire arrangement was unworkable, particularly at a time when the experience of running coalitions was very limited.
He narrated A Crown of Thorns. India was reeling under an economic crisis, with the most serious balance of payment crisis that the country had ever known.
Mr. Chandra Shekhar was hardly there for 4 or 5 months. The economic crisis was not his doing. The economic crisis was left behind by Mr. Rajiv Gandhi. He left the treasury absolutely bankrupt. The successive governments tried to do some patch-up job, but the hole was so big that it was impossible to borrow money, and that is why, if you remember, gold had to be sent to England as a mortgage to get loans.
Chandra Shekhar endorsed the decision to mortgage gold to the International Monetary Fund as deposit for a forex loan.
The country was undergoing a major crisis or crises of several sorts, apart from the economic crisis. And frankly, I didn't think that Chandra Shekhar was the caliber of a good prime minister. I think he was a good faction leader. He was, he took great pride in being a member of the socialist faction of the Congress Party at one time, and he was a good rebel-rouser.
Propped up by the Congress and deserted by it in the hour of need,
No, I say I am not going to say anything about my talk to the President.
the ill-fated Chandra Shekhar-led government lasted barely 4 months at the centre. He resigned on the 6th of March 1991. The Congress withdrew support on the pretext of 2 Haryana policemen spying on the Gandhi's residence.
He was easily the worst prime minister India had. And his government would call the cash and carry government. In those 6, 7 months or 5 months, I think corruption was at its highest. And that's why they said cash and carry, that if you just made as much money as you can.
Political turmoil in India after Chandra Shekhar's resignation turned into trauma. Rajiv Gandhi was assassinated on the 21st of May 1991 while he was on an election campaign in Sri Perumbudur. And while the grief was on display in public,
मैं प्रत्यक्ष अथवा परोक्ष रूप में संसूचित या प्रकट नहीं करूँगा.
from the shadows rose a man who was perhaps contemplating retirement from active politics, P.V. Narasimha Rao.
At that time of early 91, there were 3-4 names were floated. I distinctly remember it was Dr. Shankar Daya Sharma was to be the face of Congress, but Madam Sonia did not have that full confidence. But at the same time, there was no question of 10 Janpath at that time. That is why Narasimha Rao overrode everyone, and with his Chanakya's chalaki, he got into that position.
While he was appointed by the first family, Narasimha Rao made it clear that he would be his own man.
Narasimha Rao faced several challenges. Narasimha Rao did not have the flamboyance of Rajiv Gandhi. He was also perhaps the first Prime Minister to come from south of India, the south of the Vindhyas. Narasimha Rao also was the first Congress Prime Minister not to come from the Nehru-Gandhi family. He had to tread a very careful path between being with the first family of the Congress, which were the Gandhis, and also pursuing his own agenda. So it was not an easy task for him, but I would say that he was a man of exceptional cerebral qualities. He was an intelligent man, and he had a mind which seemed impassive.
Economy was done by Mr. Narasimha Rao. The political work